Hello, welcome back to another episode of Holton Talks. You're joined today by me, Scott Acton, and Jamie Acton as always. We're just going to do a little episode on the striker situation at Villa at the moment. We're going to start with Duran, because although he's not at the club anymore, he is looks like he's going to Fenerbahce on loan for 6 months. Is that right, 6 months?
I'm not sure the
details
the initial term, but I know it's not like it's a straight loan, and there's I know Al Nassr are covering all the wages, but there are incentives in there that if he meets certain things and stuff, he could go permanently and things. Don't know what the fee would be. So obviously they paid big money for him, didn't they? In January. I don't know, all in, it was like mid-70s, wasn't it?
Nearly 70.
It was like an initial 50-something. With add-ons, it was revised to like 70-something.
Yeah, and obviously there's a bit of talk about Watkins maybe going. United were obviously having a few loose links last week. Let's touch on Duran. Do you think still think it's the right decision when we got rid of him and didn't cash in on Watkins?
It's difficult to say because it depends what side of camp you're in. If Watkins is very much like Marmite, isn't he? If you like Watkins, I think like we're both happy with Watkins because like we've said before, it's going to be very hard to get a player of that ability for less of a price of what you're selling him for.
Yeah.
Yes, obviously he's on the older side compared to Duran, but whatever environment Duran goes into, he's always going to cause trouble. He caused trouble. It came out that he was causing trouble for Unai, and then that thing came out a couple of weeks ago during the international break that he put the Colombian coach up against the wall. So that sums it up.
Yeah.
So I feel like he was trouble, but if you're talking pure football talent, I would say he's better than Watkins. But for overall, I'd probably, happy with Watkins, but I can see the other side of the argument. Someone saying, keep Duran, he's younger, sell cash in and Watkins for 45, 50, 55, and then have Duran for maybe another 2 years and then
sell him on again.
But it's hard, I don't think Unai is going to get rid of anyone that he doesn't want to get rid of unless he's forced to, i.e. the whole Dougie thing. If he wanted to sell Watkins and keep Duran, that's what he would have done.
Yeah.
But it's clear to see that he felt that he wanted Duran out of there.
Yeah. So United's links last week, I see there was a few different people saying it would have been an underwhelming signing for United, which makes absolutely no sense. That just pure shit. If Villa was signing Watkins now, you'd be looking and thinking, okay, he's got double figures in 5 seasons in a row, gets a lot of assists, works really hard, misses chances, but so does every single striker, Haaland included. And that's going to be Villa's downfall if he was to go, and obviously there's nothing to say he's going to go to United or Arsenal or whoever. Who do you bring in? We've obviously signed Redmond now from Feyenoord on free transfer.
What's his first name?
We're just going to. Do you think he's going to be in and around the first team?
It'll be tough to say. A lot of people have been comparing it to Duran in the sense of, they're both raw, which is obviously quite obvious to see.
He's a big old boy, isn't
he? He does not look like a 19-year-old kid. He is, which is obviously good. The bits that I watched of him in the Euros, and then again when we first linked with him, so it kind of came out of nowhere, didn't it? A month, 6 weeks ago, I watched a few highlights of him, and again that Duran sort of mould where similar play style, but still quite raw. Do you remember when Duran? I think it was off the top of my head at the start of the season when we were in the Conference League, we played against Liverpool. I think we lost through 2-0, was it maybe? I think he came off the bench and he was probably near the corner flag and he went for a shot went into the away end, and I think he squared up to Joe Gomez. And I was thinking, and I was like, he's just so raw. He's letting people get in his head. He was shooting from all sorts of angles. He had that season, and then you look at him in that, August to January before we sold him. He was like a proper striker, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He was winding people up, but he wasn't getting wound up, and he wasn't shooting from outrageous angles. He was confident, like you saw like Leipzig away, came off the bench.
Yeah.
He only
it was up until Newcastle. If the Newcastle game where he gets sent off, if he doesn't get sent off, then I wonder what now looks like.
Because he was very much
starting. The knock-on effect. He
scored against City, didn't he? And then
he was obviously playing really well. Was unlucky to get sent off, in my opinion. Obviously, there's still some that say he done it on purpose, but again, that's for a different day. Be interesting. Yeah, Redmond. I've not seen enough of him. I just know he's a big boy.
Yeah.
Is he better than you look at? We got Roy Wilson signed a new contract now, hasn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Scoring a lot of goals at like the youth level. Does he become the young backup striker?
I think it's good to have. Obviously, we're going to be competing on all fronts in the sense of we want to be getting European football this year. We'd be one of the favourites, if not the favourite, to win the Europa League.
100%,
FA Cup, League Cup. We're in Europe, so in the League Cup, you're literally about 3 games away from Wembley, or whatever it is, isn't it? So we're going to be going for that. We're going to be going for the FA Cup. You need a big squad. I don't see a world where you have Watkins and then a Wilson and a Redmond because, if you've got, I don't know, Middlesbrough away.
Can't rely on them too.
You're not going to play Watkins because you've got Roma on Thursday or whatever. So, are you then going to chuck in a 19-year-old kid? I don't know. We might do, but I think it might be a Marlon game maybe where he's the 9, and then you might play Guinea out wide or whatever. So on the Redmond front, didn't play many games for Feyenoord. That's the only thing between him and Duran. So Redmond has come from near enough no first team football. Obviously done well, won the Euros. I think he got a brace against England in the Euros as well, the under-19 Euros. Whereas Duran was playing regularly at Chicago Fire week in, week out, so he was used to the men's football. Yes, it's not the Prem, but he's played men's football.
It's to the level, yeah.
So I would expect to see something where to keep Redmond in and around the first team, but so he can learn off the likes of Marlon, Watkins, and then again, if say we sign Asensio permanently, that would do him wonders as well. Like having Asensio, feeding him chances, learn how for everything. I think that would be really good. But for me, I've always loved obviously, I get you have to blood youngsters in with either throw them in the deep end by sending them out on loan or playing them against the Middlesbrough away in the cup or whatever. And that's what, you take away a loan aspect of it. I always like the fact of having someone in and around the team. The prime example would be Foden with City. Yeah. I know everyone was calling for him to go on loan. I know it's a different thing because he had, David Silva, one of the best the Prem seen, to work off. But, if you've got, say, a Redmond or a Wilson there, okay, you might loan one out, but then the other one I'd hope would be in and around the first team. I've seen Roy Wilson play when he played against Crawley. Not this season, the season before. I think we lost 5-2, I think. And he came off the bench. And, he looked, like the eye test. He looked like he had something about him. Yeah. And he came off the bench and just the touches and his runs was so much different. So I think Kobe Moore played up front. He came off for Kobe Moore. And he just been released as well, Kobe Moore. But he came off for him and just the touches and everything was just so much on point. Obviously, he was significantly younger, but that's someone as well that I hope to get a chance. If he goes out on loan, I'd expect Redmond to be in and around as like a third choice striker, and then vice versa.
The difference is on them two. Wilson still looks like not a boy, but he doesn't look. He's not filled out yet. Whereas Redmond, from a physical aspect, looks massive.
Yeah.
Which might do him more of a favour now than it does Wilson.
Obviously, I only got about 15-20 minutes to watch Wilson play, but he very much reminded me of like a Vardy.
Yeah.
I think he is like 6'1", but like when he was coming in to get the ball, it wasn't like he'd get it turned, dribble out the defence. He was like getting it, popping it off, and then getting him beyond. Yeah, he was he was so sharp, and it reminded me a little bit of how Vardy, when Vardy dropped in, Vardy wouldn't drop in, get it, spin, and play a dive. He'd get it, bounce it in, and spin, run off.
Yeah,
he reminded me of that sort of player. But that's not like I'm quite old school in the sense, we've just won. Our youth team just won the treble. I'd like to see him just get chances, because nowadays, it's just nice.
There's no route to the first team up.
And now it feels like the only purpose now is just to sell him for PSR. You've seen Louis Barry. I know the whole thing has collapsed because they're in financial trouble, but Kesler Hayden has gone. You look at in the recent years, Archer, Chukwuemeka, both the Chukwuemeka brothers.
Yeah.
You got Kellerman last year to Chelsea. I know it's a PSR deal, but. Still
a youth. I know he was at Derby, wasn't he? But still a youth product that looked good. That could have maybe
you bought for $500,000, and you've just sold him for. I know again PSR related it was 20 million, but I miss the days of when I don't know if you have seen the Alex Ferguson documentary on Amazon Prime, but he basically said that he was like the youngsters is what's going to keep United afloat. Hence the era where they had the Nevilles, Becks, etc. They just blooded them in. Do you remember? It was a first game of the season, but apart 3-1, Ian Taylor. Yeah. So we won the mic. And it's just I'd like to personally see if, for example, we don't go and get an Asensio or whatever, why don't those early cut rounds or in the Europa League, you do play some Wi-Fi passwords, don't you? What I mean by that is clubs from obscure nations. You remember when the Conference League we played Jurinsky Mostar?
Yeah.
So why can't we then go play if you're playing a Marlon up front, why can't you have a Cole Brannigan in that number 10, the one that scored?
No, I know what you're saying.
Do you know what I mean?
So do you think we're going to go with Ollie and Marlon as the backup striker, and then a Redmond, or we're saying Wilson, but obviously we don't know how close Wilson is to the first team. Or do you think it's going to be Ollie, Marlon's predominantly played out right, and we look to bring in a backup striker? Or do you think because of the way that the squad is and we've got to be careful with PSR that we won't bring in another striker unless Ollie goes?
I don't think we'll bring another out-and-out 9 unless Ollie goes. I don't think we'll bring in a backup one. What I think will happen is, personally, is obviously we've got Ollie. Ollie is very fit. Ollie plays a lot of games. He plays over 50 games a season.
Yeah.
So he can play, like I said, the Europa League games, the big Europa League games. He'll play in all the knockout games. The late stages of League Cup, FA Cup he'll play, Premier League he'll play, because he can do that. He's always played he played every single game of last season. I think he was the only player to do that, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think Rodgers must have been close.
Rodgers missed one or two through. He missed the Brentford at home game through suspension.
That was talking Premier League. So.
But Ollie played every single Premier game, and you think that was with Duran and Rashford.
Yeah.
I think we will sign another winger.
Yeah, I think.
And then if Bailey goes, you're probably maybe looking at 2, maybe a 10 as well, maybe like one winger and then a 10, maybe.
Yeah. Well, our squad now is down Rashford, Asensio,
and then Leon's looking like.
And if Bailey goes, you've lost 3 players.
So you're looking at probably
in your front.
You're probably looking at bringing in 2 because we probably had one too many, didn't we?
Yeah.
What I think will happen is Ollie's round out 9. Marlon's the backup striker, but Marlon is also playing off that right. So
Marlon needs to play, because I think if he doesn't play, why do we sign him? So whether he plays on the right and then covers for Ollie, but Marlon, he looked bloody class in the games that he did play in.
Yeah,
he's got something about him. He's explosive, gets shots away.
And pace is scary.
We don't have any out-and-out pace since we lost Diaby.
Rashford gave that, but then again,
that's the kind of winger that we need to bring in. Well, let's just say hypothetically that Ollie does go, and put you on the spot here. So Ollie goes. We've still got Marlon. I don't know. Give me 2 names that you'd like us to go for.
It's tough.
Would you try and stick with someone that's played in the Premier League or look further afield? I know we've said about Jonathan David before, but he's obviously just gone. He has gone to Juve now.
He's gone to Juve now. Yeah, that would have been perfect for the PSR deal.
Yeah. I mean, Premier League strikers. This would be my thing when people say about letting Watkins go.
Who are you going to replace it with?
How are you replacing that output with somebody? Because we look at the season just gone. You had Isak. Obviously, you're not getting him out of Newcastle, no way. Salah's more of a winger, and Buemo's more of a winger. They're the ones that were scoring like big goals.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of goals. Haaland. Watkins wasn't that far down the list of top goal scorers in the league.
And you think for half the season he was on the bench.
Yeah, and he wasn't always first choice, and he did definitely have the ump at that pass of the season.
No, he made it clear.
And then what you're looking at? Unfortunately, we're not shopping in the window of Mbeumo, I don't think, or Eze's, or I know we're again half-heartedly linked with like an Elanga, but an out-and-out striker. The main ones last year, Chris Wood. I wouldn't want Chris Wood, would you?
Chris Wood's a Benteke where you have to play to his strengths.
But he's not with past players like that now, surely, aren't we?
Well, he's
fairly old.
He's a system player, and I don't. I'd
works for Forest, and that's not me criticising Chris Wood, but like not for Villa.
No,
you're not getting an Isak, you're not getting a Haaland, them kind of players. So
Gyökeres looks like he's going to Arsenal.
Yeah, and his sample size in England is at Coventry. He's not done it in the premise of, and doing it in Sporting is completely different. I'm not sure that works for me personally because that's a lot of money.
I know, yeah.
You're then looking at players like Johan Wissa at Brentford.
But then again, what was the bid turn? I think he's in last year's contract now, but in January they bidded hefty money and he got turned down.
But then who else? Realistically, who else have you got from other teams in England? Then you're going to have to go further afield, abroad, and then hope that someone can hit the ground running.
Yeah. Like I said, it's tough. I mentioned on our last episode with Nick, I'm not going to try to pronounce his name because it would be the same thing as Redmond, but the Georgian striker for Lyon, obviously they're in absolute... They've appealed the decision about them going down, but regardless, they're in financial disarray at the minute.
Yeah.
She's scratching the door.
I think the whole thing with Watkins will go on until the end of the summer, really.
And you know what's interesting is that I still have an inkling. Call me delusional. I have a feeling that I know the whole. So I'm going to touch a bit on Rashford, yeah. So Williams has. I don't know if you hear about Williams. He signed a new deal at Athletic Bilbao, a 10-year deal, 2035. He's staying until. So he ain't going Barcelona this summer for sure.
Yeah.
I can't remember the name that Barcelona have now. It was Luis Diaz. They turned their attention to now. Luis Diaz. Obviously, everything going on at Liverpool at the minute. I can't see them getting rid of Diaz. Their next option, according to Britzo, their next option is then a Rashford.
Yeah.
Obviously, if Rashford's made it clear his number one destination is Barcelona, I get that. You know, if you're talking, you take out Madrid, Barcelona, and maybe United, they're the next biggest club in the world. You get why you'd want to go there.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't end up in Barcelona, which deep down I don't think he will, because he's been twerking for that move for so long and they haven't gone in for it. I still think there's a possibility where we do the same thing as last year. We do a loan with another obligation or something along those lines.
Later on the window.
It will be at the very end because he's going to hold out for that Barcelona.
I wouldn't rule that out either, to be fair.
And I feel like deep down we will go and get like a 10 or whatever, or a wing or whatever it'll be. But we still need one more.
Yeah.
And to me, I feel like Unai's going to... Obviously, they'll know a lot more than us. They'll know 10 days before whether Barcelona's going to go in for Rashford or whatever, but... I think that if there's a chance that we can get Rashford, Unai will snatch it up because you can see.
Yeah, he did love him.
Again, on the eye test.
Yeah, he was good. He was really good for us. For the most part, there were some times where he wasn't great, but you'd probably say it was a 7 out of 10.
But you know what? I liked him as a 9. City away, I thought he was really good. PSG was his best game. Like, if we kept him on, who knows what would have happened. It's another option
later on in the window,
but then, that's like a right at the end sort of thing.
But we have what's the date? So we're filming on the 6th.
On the 6th of July.
So I'm pretty sure our first pre-season game against Walsall was the 16th. So we've got 10 days. You'd like to think that there'd be a bit of movement by then. We've obviously Kane Hayden's gone. Coutinho's gone, which is massive wages off the wage bill. The whole Martinez thing has kind of quietened up a little bit now.
I know. Real quick, what's your take on that?
What on Emmy?
Emmy, yeah.
If you were to get good money, I would take him. I would take it because I think it does PSR and it does the UEFA squad cost rules in one. By the sounds of it, listening to other people, but I will say he's 34 next year. I think he is, or he's 33. He's not played like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of games, but he's not getting any younger. So from a business point of view, I could see it. But you're gonna have to go and spend big on the goalkeeper. That's the only thing I would love him to stay because I think he's a massive personality. He's probably we've said it before, our only world class player. On paper. Yeah. But he wasn't as good last year as he was the previous years.
So the question I'll put to you is, what fee would you, let's say Atletico Madrid, I know they're interested, they'll have to get rid of Oblak, which again I don't think is going to happen. But Atletico Madrid come in for him, or United, they get rid of Onana, United come in. If they offer 35 million,
no, that's not enough.
No. What would you go for?
I would say if you're selling abroad, I would probably take 40. If you're selling to United, I would want more like 50. I just think you're selling
50
to a
would
team
be hard.
100%. But selling to a team in England, you're just making United better.
A direct
straight away.
A direct rival when you no matter. I know they just finished 16th,
but
but they're going to come back.
Emmy, their squad will be better, and they're not going to do any worse than last year. So all you're doing is strengthening other teams. If Villa wanted to sign Martinelli from Arsenal, because I heard that name the other day,
they'd charge more on top.
They would say they wanted more, so we've got to start acting like that.
I see that
like a big club.
The only problem I have is that the more I've got older, I've adopted your old man's kind of mindset with the fact of like, well, if you don't want to be here, I get there's bigger clubs out there. Yeah. People are always going to have one eye on the bigger clubs. Yeah. But
yeah, I know what Dad is right in what he says.
He's a bit too old school.
If you don't want to be here, then obviously go. But Emmy's not actually come out and said that, yes, he was emotional at the last game at home, but that doesn't necessarily say. He might have been told by the club, listen, if an offer comes in, you're the one that's going to have to be sacrificed. And he might be saying, I don't want to go. But he's being told a bit like Dougie last year. Yeah. But now, with the sale of the women's team, it might not be as necessary to sell. That I still think there'll be one player, and we touched on it before. I think they'll try and move players out over the next week, but we're going to have to start trying to get players in. We need to. I don't think we need masses, but I still think we probably need 3 or 4 good players that are going to make our first 11 better. Because that's the only way that you move forward. And again, it's going to be tough. Tottenham are going to be better. United are going to be better. That window in the league is tough. Every game's going to be hard. And one bad window and you'll be left behind.
That first game of the season is such one of the biggest games of the season, and you think if he stays, we're not going to have him in goal.
No, well, he's suspended anyway.
That's what I'm saying.
So and they're going to have to address it. Are they going to bring in a backup number 2 now that Olsen's gone, or are they going to give one of the youngsters a chance for that first game? Yeah. Is Gauchi ready? I doubt it.
Well, whatever keeper you bring in, they're not going to be ready for Newcastle at home, are they? Because that is
it's a massive game.
It's a massive game.
First game of the season as well. Like everyone, bang up for it. I don't know. Yeah, it's a time will tell. We're obviously just waiting for something to happen. It's quite quiet now that hopefully they've done the women's team. We will start to see.
It's quite quiet. Hence why we've done a podcast talking about John Duran, who left our club 6 months ago.
So let's try and get some content out. No, but it's true because I think Watkins and Emmy, in their own ways, are 2 of the biggest players that we've got at the club, and there's still a lot of talk about them too, whether they'll stay or they'll go. And again, we're talking Duran because obviously he is now, that project's already crumbled at Al Nassr.
I think what he's doing is he's gone to Fenerbahce. I know there is a bit in the contract where there is obviously the option. It's just it's initial loan to start, but there's an option there. No matter what he says, he's not like if he goes and bags 40 goals. That's his move to Europe.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? He's not looking at Fenerbahce. He's looking at
Bayern or someone like that. Might think I will take a chance.
And do you know what? He is good enough for that.
Yeah,
he's so good.
Listen, he's class.
But like I said, we said before, it's just the attitude problem on the Duran front.
Yeah, and there is a big thing with Ollie because we still don't know. And again, until Ollie or Emmy haven't come out and said, no, we don't want to leave. So as a fan, you're left in limbo and you're just waiting on an Ornstein tweet or a Romano tweet to say they're staying, blah, blah, blah.
I just think, obviously, our spine, every team, if you compare spines throughout the team, R1 you've got Emmy, so you've got Esri, Tielemans, Ollie. If you put a 10 in there, so say we have Asensio, that spine there is unbelievable.
Oh, yeah. And you build at the end of last season. Exactly. It was brilliant. It's probably the best squad we've ever seen. And it's about, all right, we've lost Disassi, we've lost Rashford, Asensio, they've all gone, but we need to make sure that our squad is like that from the start of the season, as opposed to getting it right in January. Because, let's be honest, Maatsen, Onana, Barkley, last year were good signings. We all thought they were good signings, but they didn't hit it off at the start. We need to make sure that we're hitting it straight away because the first half of the season cost us to last year because the back end of the season we were class.
It was a silly
drop. But we need to start well. We need to try and be consistent for. You're not going to be consistent for 38 games because you romp the league, but be consistent for 2/3 of the season, whereas we were consistent for probably half the season.
Well, we only started kicking into gear, didn't it? Around like mid to end of February.
Yeah, February time, which is too late. And if you think about it, you're like, bloody hell, that's a big chunk of the season where you haven't been at your best. And you think a lot of the home games, we were, late goals to nick wins at like Everton, Wolves, and then a lot of goals that we conceded late, like Brentford, Bournemouth. Sorry, do you know games like that?
But it's just like if you look at what did we win? Like 8 out of our last 9 or 10 out of
we won 19 games all season. We won 19 out of 38.
No, but
not that much.
Yeah, but those February games, from February to April or May or whatever, we literally won like 8 or 9.
We hadn't back-to-back wins.
It was just the City game, wasn't it? And the United game.
Yeah, less said about that.
But up until the United game, we lost, I think we won 8 out of 9, and the only one we lost was the City game.
Yeah.
And it's just, to do that well, still not get it, it shows that first half of the season is so important.
Yeah. We need to start well. And I'll start on paper. Them first 7 games, and I know we touched on it with an episode of Azzy. Our first 7, obviously Aaron's got us down to win 7 out of 7. But our first 7 games, you'd like to think that you could pick up probably 5 wins, maybe a draw, and you're not going to. I doubt you're going to win 7 out of 7. To set you up to then hit the rest of the season well.
Well, if you look at, we spent a lot of the time before we kicked into gear, like end of Jan times, middle of Jan, we were like 9th, weren't we?
Yeah, we dropped into the bottom half, didn't we?
But then at Christmas, we were competing for the title. If we had won that Sheffield United game the year before, when we competed, when we got Champions League and the Conference League, if we had won that Sheffield United game,
we would have been top.
On the 23rd. We would have gone top. We would have been top at Christmas.
Yeah.
Whereas you compare that to the season just gone. I said we were like 8th and 9th.
But we obviously the 2 full seasons now that Unai's had, we've done good start, bad ending, bad start, good ending. So 3rd time lucky that we just do
bad.
Good start, good ending. Yeah. And we just win the league. But time will tell. Yeah. We'll wrap up there. Hopefully, before they start pre-season, we'll have a few transfers and we can jump on and speak about them.
Yes, because all we've got is Yasin Ozcan, which everyone had known about since January, and then Redmond as well. Like I said, we're waiting for that one where you're like, God, 40 million pounds, and you're like, God, he's gonna. He's going to start. That's the thing. You need to improve our starting 11.
Yeah, we got about a month until the season starts. Is it a month? Yeah, just over a month. So,
and if you have the same starting 11 as what you did,
you got moved
against
on.
West Ham, for example, at the start of last season at London Stadium.
It's not where you want to be.
Exactly. If you can take out a Bailey and put someone else in, then
So
that's the thing.
We'll have plenty of episodes coming up. We'll touch on obviously any transfers that happen. We'll do a table predictor kind of episode, squads episode once it's probably at the end of the window.
We can do videos when the transfers come out and stuff, and then all ins and outs, and then you can also do talk after the transfer window is done or the day before the season starts and stuff, because then you know what transfers you have had in.
Yeah,
it's hard to do stuff at this stage. Isn't it?
But we'll try and get content out there, and
we're trying.
Yeah, if you've liked the episode, let us know what you do with Ollie. Are we still saying it's a mistake that we got rid of Duran? Let us know what you think about Redmond. Do you think he'll be part of the first team? Comment, subscribe, all that jazz.
Look at our TikTok as well. We're TikTok famous.
Yeah, TikTok's up and running, so go check us out. Hot in Talks. And thanks for watching. Up the Villa.